Welcome to the Sean Chandler Podcast, a place to talk movies and nerdy stuff way too much. Joining me, as always, is Griffin Schiller. Griffin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's you and I were just talking about this, but it's nice to get back to some sense of normalcy just in terms of content creation, in terms of the new year and all that good stuff. It's like I was just telling you, I felt like I've been on like vacation for a month, and I'm sort of just like, okay, I kind of want to get back into things, right now, like. And this podcast is like a staple of the week. And so it's nice to be here, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Like for me, I feel like I just did this 30-day sprint. As soon as the Investor Day stuff dropped for Disney, I started this kind of like 5-week, 6-week sprint of just cranking out content and lists and staying up till 2 a.m. trying to get everything finished in time. And even last week, I actually kind of took the week off from my main channel, but I still put out like 5-6 videos on the channel while taking the week off. And so I just feel like this is like a return to kind of normal. And beyond that, my kids went back to school a couple weeks back after 10 months off. Or not off, but we homeschooled in the fall, like actual legit homeschooled them, which was that was a choice. It was not a good choice, but it was a choice.
It's another added burden, though, for sure. And so now if you not having to do that, it makes things a little bit less stressful.
And just the simple reality that my work day, my kids aren't here.
Yeah.
Love my kids, but like for 10 months, everyone in our household was in the same room all day long because I didn't want to leave my wife to have to try and work while watching the kids. So then I was trying to work, edit videos in the same room as them. So just having a little bit of breathing room has been nice. And one final nice thing that happened in our little break. It snowed in Texas last week.
Yes, that's right. I saw.
Not just a little snow. Not like, oh, that was cute. I mean, we got 7 hours of snow here in Austin. Apparently, it was the biggest snow Austin has received in since the 40s, is what they said, which is just crazy. And so it like we woke up and there was like a pile of snow, and we did a snowball fight. We're like, I guess this will go away soon enough, and then it kept snowing. All day long, and it stuck around for days. So it's pretty cool. It's the most snow I've ever seen in my life, and I'm pretty well extreme in age. And so then, of course, it was also the most snow my kids have ever seen.
Right.
So let me pull up this picture real quick. How has your month been?
It's been good. I've been working on a few things, a few scripts for some more like video essays and stuff like that. I've been very lucky to have some opportunities to cover WandaVision the way I have. Was quoted in a couple of TV spots.
We will talk about that in just a moment.
So that was really, really cool. Actually, my girlfriend and I went to Big Bear up in California. There was this cabin in the mountains. We went there, so it was pretty isolated. Went tubing, hiking, all that stuff. So it was like really nice, really relaxing.
Tubing?
Yeah, tubing, dude.
Texas is having a blizzard, and you're going tubing.
Yeah, well, you could have gone tubing.
It's true.
In your backyard,
Oh, I filmed. I haven't put the video out yet, but we went out and tried to do some sledding, like literally in a drainage ditch.
Yeah,
and so it's like garbage at the bottom of the hill, but it's like the biggest hill we could find in the area. And so then we slid down with cardboard boxes and stuff, and they didn't know what they were doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was like fun for 2 seconds, and then you're like, all right, get my arms out of the garbage.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, for sure. But I love, like, when I was like growing up, and because we used to get a lot of snow in Maryland, where I was originally from, and we had like two of the largest blizzards on record in the state when I was growing up as a kid. And so like there'd be just these like dune hills of like snow in like the middle of the road, and you'd be like snowing down them, and it would just, I don't know, or sledding down them and whatnot. And it's like that's fun. Whenever it just kind of like happens unexpectedly, not when you're taking a trip, that's when it's like, oh, this is awesome. I feel like a kid again.
Yeah. So I was born in California and then moved to Texas when I was 7. And so I've been in 2 places that it doesn't snow. And so, Texas will get like once a year. We normally get some flurries and enough accumulation to throw 2 snowballs, and then it melts. But this was the real deal. And so in my life, both my parents are from Denver. So I've been to Denver during the holidays and seen snow, and went skiing one time in my life.
Nice.
So like actually real snow and stuff to me is like, I mean, everyone in everyone in Austin was posting every picture. They made a snowman. I mean, it was the whole deal. Everyone was freaking out, and everyone above the Mason-Dixon line was like, "What are you doing?" Like,
I know. I know, but listen, that's like really cool for you guys though, because it doesn't happen like ever. And so like the fact that it did happen, I think is just like part of the fun.
Yeah,
and everyone just
exactly.
is sharing that. Yeah.
And Texas is not known for getting rain. We get rain. We're not getting snow. So even, people could kind of appreciate a lot of that. So we had a super chat come in from Daniel Skinner. Hey, Daniel. And I have received your fan mail that you sent me, Daniel. And I'll be opening it very shortly. He said, you can go tubing in Big Bear, California. I know because I've been doing it since I was 10 years old. I, however, did not know that because I have not been there.
They got some cool little hills that you can go down for sure for tubing and stuff like that. Also, really just good skiing and snowboarding if you do that sort of thing. So,
well, one quick question in here was asked: does Griffin live in L.A.? I don't know if I'm saying anything interesting, but yeah, I mean I went out to go visit him out there, and if you saw pictures and stuff like that, it was pretty cool. Spent a whole week in L.A. with Griffin doing stuff, and our buddy Tyler. And had a bunch of adventures. Our buddy Durbin was able to get us some of us passes to go. I guess you weren't able to join us for that one. I'm sorry about that. We should have taken you.
Oh, that's okay. I had a season pass anyways. So
just making sure. It's like, wait a second. We excluded you from going to Universal.
They purposefully did not invite me because they hate me. So.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what was going on with that one. We were just trying to get away from you.
Right.
But it's actually a pretty cool little week. That was a year ago, and I was going to go in 2020 back to LA, and probably would have stayed with you this time, and had all sorts of adventures, and then the year 2020 happened.
Right.
With all that said, we got a bunch of topics to discuss. That is some fun, actual, exciting things to talk about. One of the reasons I put the podcast on hold was because we just had too many weeks in a row for me that it was talking about movies getting delayed, so it turned into Sean Chandler and Griffin talk about movies getting delayed, and that's not why I started the podcast. That's not fun. And so it kind of just burned me out a little bit. Plus, I was homeschooling. There's just a lot of stuff happening. And so I put it on hold. And I don't know what the frequency will be this year. Probably every 2 weeks is what I'm thinking for right now. Unless more stuff happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm very fluid with these sorts of things. But we got the kickoff of the MCU last week. HBO Max has given us some first looks. We got some trailers. So there's some actually exciting things to talk about. The order of the discussion is down below in the description. There'll be time codes if you're on the rewatch of this, so you can skip ahead to your favorite topic of discussion. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, be sure to leave a review to help it rank a little bit better. And our first thing that we want to talk about today, Phase 4 of the MCU kicked off last week with WandaVision. And kicks off with a TV show. We got 2 episodes of it, and it was quite the kickoff to the MCU. Whether you loved it, hate it, wherever you are on it, you've got an opinion on it because this was a bold, interesting direction. In fact, some critics that Paul Bettany has actually quoted said this. Some gentleman said, this kickoff was pure brilliance. Some guy from the playlist called Griffin Schiller, I've seen some of the TV spots, and they actually ran this quote that said, pure brilliance.
Yeah.
So you had quite the week too.
Yeah, that was really that was really cool. You never expect that stuff to happen, and then you wake up and everyone's like tagging you in like tweets from Paul Bettany and everything, and you're just like, oh, all right, cool. I guess I said something that resonated. Yeah, that was really awesome. In full disclosure, I have been quoted for promotional material for marketing for films before, and I like that is just always super surreal to have happen. But I've never been quoted for something like this big, like Marvel. So that was like massive. So that was really cool.
I mean, the biggest thing this month, Marvel Phase 4. This whole channel exists because of the MCU, and in their kickoff promotion, they went, this Griffin Schiller fellow, well, we better make sure we include that one. Literally TV spots, their whole promo, and Paul Bettany, Vision himself, of all the things, of all the quotes he could put on his Instagram, he picked yours.
That was the thing. I didn't see him post anyone else's nice quotes. It was only me. So I was just like,
that's pretty cool. I haven't been quoted yet. And some of you guys, maybe that you think you get used to those things when you're us, of kind of having some of these. No, you don't. It's still like, I can't believe that just happened. And it didn't even happen to me. It happened to you. Wait, you're that
dude.
Way. Right. It happened to you. And it's still like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's like encouraging. It's like, oh, okay, I don't suck. at what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm obviously doing something right here. So that was really cool. And and then I got to chat with the director of the entire series. Super nice guy. And then outside of that, I'm just absolutely loving the show. So
on that point, we'll kick things off with our first subject of the day. Little discussion between me and you. Was WandaVision an awesome kickoff to Phase 4, or was it an awkward kickoff to Phase 4? So you, obviously, we just put up a quote where you said this was pure brilliance. Mm-hmm. So clearly, you absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
My take on it, I don't know where I stand on it. I'm certainly not throwing any shade at it, but it's not what I signed up for when I got invested in the MCU.
Yeah.
It's such a departure from sci-fi action, spy thrillers, where always action-based, and then this kicks off. And we're not going to go into any spoilers here, but, if you want to know absolutely nothing, I don't know why you'd be watching this, but, I mean, it's legitimate sitcoms. Like, legitimate, we've seen the first 3 episodes, they are sitcoms from each decade, from the 50s, first episode, second episode, 60s, third episode is the 70s, and they're fully embracing the style, and that's what the episodes are, with these little moments of intrigue hinting at the bigger picture. So for me, I think I'll go with the position, it's an awkward kickoff, because there's no transition, because we're able to binge the whole season, so we kick off, and we get these 2 weird episodes, or for us lucky critics, 3 episodes, with no context.
Yeah,
to me, it's awkward to tick it off that way. Not throwing shade. This wasn't their original plan. It wasn't even their backup plan, really. But I think it's, considering everything that's come before, it's a weird place to start.
Yeah, and I definitely see where you're coming from with that. And like a lot of the criticisms of what I've seen so far, I think are valid. I think what's probably the most valid statement is that it's really tough to judge a show like this off of the first 3 episodes. That's not even half of a season. Usually when critics get screeners to review, television, they get half of the season, and then when the show catches up, they get the back half of the season, and they're able to sort of piece together like full pieces on it. That did not happen with WandaVision. It doesn't happen with The Mandalorian either. The Mandalorian critics don't get screeners for. So, but that's a little bit different of an instance. But in terms of this show, I get where you're coming from. And I think it comes down to, are you on board with watching these really like otherworldly, just wacky sort of sitcom scenarios, knowing that there's going to be something at the end of the tunnel, that there's going to be this, big climactic conclusion at the end of the tunnel? Are you okay with watching these scenarios and these actors just like completely dive into them in a new way and really like stretch their chops and their abilities as performers in like as these characters like we've never seen them before? Are you able to get into that? And if you are, you'll probably enjoy it a lot more than most people. Everyone I've talked to who is not a part of this online film discourse and community, like my parents, girlfriend's parents, her friends, my friends, all that stuff like that, they all like it, but they're really curious to see where it's going to go. But they're on board. And I think that's a good sign right now. They built up enough intrigue. There's enough there to like get people like, okay, so what's the outside world sort of like trying to come in? How did they get here and all that stuff? And I have no doubt that it'll all be answered by the end of the show, but based off of, the season premiere that we got, I can understand why it would be a bit, awkward for people. Right. That being said, just in terms of like kicking off Phase 4, I actually like this better than kicking off with Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just because I think there is a clean enough break from what happened before. So we wrap everything up with like Spider-Man Far From Home, and like there's sort of the conclusion of the Infinity Saga. And I think that year that we had off was really nice padding, because it provides that space that we needed, the distance that we sort of needed from that epic conclusion. And with WandaVision, we're jumping into something different, something new. And we still have the baggage of what's come before, especially with, Wanda's trauma and Vision dying and all that stuff like that, which I'm sure the show will explore. But then we get to these episodes and it just feels like a fresh start. We're going in, it's a bit disorienting, but it's like really intriguing. And I like that.
Yeah, I try to think the difference between my take on it. Like, my feeling on it was like, okay, this isn't really my thing. I'm so invested in this universe. I'm curious. I'm enjoying it enough. Of course I'm going to watch all of it because I love the MCU. I want to see where this is going. I do enjoy the mystery. This just isn't the thing I would immediately rush out to check out inherently because of what it is.
Sure.
So that's kind of my just default take on it. My wife likes 50s, 60s sitcoms quite a bit. In fact, over the last couple of months, she's been showing my kids episodes of Mr. Ed. Like, she's even trying to introduce my kids to old sitcoms. And so she's a little bit more kind of the target audience that would enjoy this sort of flavor of things. So I watched the first 3 episodes with her, and she was like, I guess it was enjoyable enough. I mean, it was kind of interesting. And so I was like, I mean, but you like this sort of thing more than I do. She's like, I guess. I mean, it's a nice novelty, but, you know, it's like a one-off. And then she was also like, she's kind of the casual fan. She's, of course, seen all these movies and enjoys them, but she doesn't know it like me and you do. She's not in this world. And so she didn't remember that Vision had died. Like, she didn't remember. Of course, she's seen Infinity War multiple times. As soon as I said it, she was like, oh yeah, of course. But she didn't remember that. And so, even on that point of, like, average Joe, a new Marvel show, and they start watching it with no transition. That's somewhat where I'm kind of approaching this one. It's more of a thought experiment for me of like, I don't know, is this the right way to do it? Will it be too alienating? Will too many people confused? Like, I had a bunch of people DMing me like, dude, I don't understand. Is this set in the 1950s? Like, I thought this was set in the year, like, after Endgame, but why is it in the 50s? I was like, no, they're in a sitcom. They're not actually in the 50s.
It's an alternate reality.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that at all. And they're like, I don't understand what's going on. I was like, well, you're supposed to be confused. You just have to wait. But so that's where I just wonder if
just going off of that point, I was going to say that I think that that's why this almost would have been better had it dropped as an entire series and not a week-to-week sort of thing. That was sort of my biggest thing. I mean, even after I finished the 3 episodes, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I was really, I want to keep going, you know?
Right.
And I feel like this kind of show also, like, encourages rewatch. Like, how many people have already rewatched the first 2 episodes already and are just like dissecting it for theories or something like that? If you had dropped this as an entire series, you know, I mean, I don't think the conversation would have gone away. It still would have been there in the zeitgeist. And I understand them wanting to do the week to week because, like, The Mandalorian, it keeps people talking, it keeps people guessing, it keeps it going until March, which is when that show's gonna end. But for just in terms of, like, you know, initial impressions, yeah, I think maybe people would have been more receptive to it had it dropped in its entirety on Disney Plus.
I that's what I said in my initial reviews as well, of like, this is the nature of this show as that just inherently what it is, as with this kind of this intrigue. You're watching, it's like weird, and you just jump into the deep end and you're like, I want to know more. I want to understand what's happening. As well as it being the kickoff of Phase 4, this thing that has a built-in audience and so much demand, it doesn't feel like a week-to-week show to me. Yeah,
if it had just been a sitcom, like purely a sitcom, like just Wanda and Vision trying to domesticate sort of thing, then yeah, sure, week-to-week, that's fine, because the consequences are very, the stakes aren't big, there's no overarching story, it's just a novelty sort of thing. But that's not the story they're trying to tell.
Right. So we had a super chat coming from Shashank. He said, this is a show I enjoy more while I'm thinking about it, what's going on, rather than something I enjoy watching it based off the 2 episodes. And like rewatching it, I think I enjoyed it the second time a lot more, because watching it the first time, I was like, I'm watching a sitcom, and then I reveal some things. When you watch it a second time, you immediately realize every line of dialogue has 2 meanings. Yeah. Like, they show up and they're having a discussion in the first episode about trying to remember what's going on. That's a normal sitcom situation. And then you realize, no, that's tied to the bigger thing as well. So everything has a double meaning. And so I think it really does reward multiple viewings.
Yeah.
And here's something, as we've mentioned multiple times, we've watched 3 episodes. The 3rd episode gives a pinch more of the bigger picture. It addresses things more directly, but it's another sitcom. It's another sitcom episode. Yeah. This one in the 70s, very kind of Brady Bunchy type stuff, but it's a sitcom. That's primarily what it is. Just a pinch more. Like, I've had people in my comments like, dude, you've only seen 3 episodes. You don't know. Like, it's not a sitcom. These are sitcom episodes. I don't even know why you're arguing with me. If the last 3 episodes turn into spectacle CGI, fair enough. But what they've shown us is a sitcom. What they're giving me to talk about is a sitcom. And it's a very interesting. It's a bold move. It certainly has my interest. I can't wait till I see the next episode. And unfortunately, we have to wait even longer to get that.
Even longer week. Yeah.
But to me, it's a very awkward way to kick things off because I think because of the week to week in particular, it feels like we're like just watching a sitcom. Like I'm once again curious, what are people going to respond when they waited another week and they get another sitcom episode that just gives them this much more?
I think people will respond more to next week's episode because it does bridge the gap between the wider outside world and the fantasy reality that Wanda has created. Because I think episode 4 is actually going to deal more with stuff that's going in, in the outside world, and you'll see when you see episode 3. But I think people will respond to that more, especially because we now know that she's pregnant, and so obviously episode 3 they're going to deal with her pregnancy and stuff like that, which is a big thing that people, Wicket and Speed from the Young Avengers, being able to see that whole, the birth of those characters and everything and what's going on with Wanda and Vision. I think people will respond to that a little bit more. You also probably will get some more confirmations as to like what's the outside organization and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
but it's a sitcom episode though. If you're waiting for it is. It literally gives like it addresses things this much more. It like progresses things, but it's the plot of it. It's a sitcom plot. What another one?
Well, but here's the thing. So it's got a budget of $250 million, which is massive. Like, that's ridiculous, especially when you compare it to like other shows. More.
I've heard that some speculation that article confused their numbers because the budget is $150 million, $25 million per episode, and it was originally a 6-episode run, and then they just multiplied out the 9 times 25 to get $225 million. So gotcha. I've heard that might be exaggerated, but correct. $150 million budget. Somewhere this money's going to show up somewhere in this season. It is not in the first 3 episodes.
Well, and the other thing I think is like I think the end of the season we're going to get like some climactic episodes that are probably going to be like hour-long episodes. Like we might have 2 hour-long episodes, and so that'll definitely sort of like give the people their fix, the people who want the spectacle, the action, and all that stuff. So.
Right. So, yeah, I don't like. I'm invested. I'm so curious as to how this will keep it. Week 1, people seem to be more into it than I was expecting. I thought there'd be a little bit more pushback. I thought I'd see a few more hate comments. There's a few here and there. The worst thing the MCU has done. Like, what is this? I saw some of that, but mostly people were pretty positive about what they did with the show, and some people in the comments are saying, "Hey, don't spoil the show. Everything that we've mentioned is in the trailers. That we haven't said nothing. It. Like they're like the thing that's closest to that would be saying that she's pregnant. That's in the trailers. They show her pregnant in the trailers.
That was also in episode 2. But.
Yeah, like they reveal that in episode 2. So, but if you haven't seen any of it, we're not saying anything that's even not in the trailers. So we're trying to be very careful on all of that. But so you would say, because we have to make this as polarizing as possible, it's an awesome kickoff. It's something different. They need to experiment. We don't need to play it safe. This shows us this is a bold new direction for the MCU.
Yeah, dude. I mean, absolutely. Like this is so different from anything this cinematic universe has done so far, and that's what I want to see from Phase 4. I want to see big swings like this, even if it doesn't work all the way. At least it was different, and they tried. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say. And for me, it's working right now. Like I think it is legitimately really well written, really smart, incredibly well acted, and it authentically captures like the snapshots of these sitcom time periods that they're trying to emulate so well. And so like it's just a case where the writing, the directing, the acting, the overall vision for the series is operating on such a high level for me. And doing something interesting. So, yeah, I mean, like, listen, that's what I want to see from Phase 4. I don't want to see safe bets. I don't want to see like, Iron Man 2s and stuff like that. I want these massive, massive swings, and so far I'm getting it. So
you
I'm
don't feel
loving
like Iron Man peeing his pants was a bold enough move?
That was, well, it was
a
certainly
choice.
not what it was a choice. Yeah, I certainly not what I expected going into that movie, but
I think that's the thing that you just have to give them credit.
oh yeah,
This is as crazy bonkers. Like, they were criticized for playing it safe, and they are doing something different. All to that point, some people are trying to use that. Like, why is it everyone's saying they played it too safe and they do an experiment? Now some people are saying this is too weird. Let's be fair. There's a big jump without a transition. So someone like, just because someone wants them to experiment doesn't mean they'll like every experiment or every experiment will pay off.
right.
But for me, I certainly appreciate that they're doing something wild and different. I hope it pays off, and I'm sure it will. I mean, especially just knowing enough of the rumor mill, this thing's probably going to pay off in big ways. Daniel Skinner once again chimes in with Super Chat. Thank you so much. Since I have very well known the House of M comic, I can point out references in the first 2 episodes that definitely point in the direction of House of M. And without even saying too much more about that, those little references and stuff continue in episode 3. There's a lot of things that when you rewatch it, in light of knowing where episodes end, in light of where the second episode ends, in light of where the third episode ends, and you rewatch the first episode, you pick up on a lot more Easter eggs. That's where, like for me, rewatching it the second time to write notes for my spoiler reviews, it was just Easter egg hunting, just noticing every line of dialogue, and I even missed a bunch of stuff because it is jam packed with references and more.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, our second topic of the day. Over the last week, we've gotten some trailers as well as a bunch of first looks. First one on here that I want to talk about is we got a clip from the movie Cherry, and then we got a first trailer for the movie Cherry. If you don't know what the movie Cherry is, it stars Spider-Man himself, Tom Holland, and it is directed by the Russo Brothers. So it's the Russo Brothers follow-up to Avengers Endgame. Of all the things they could have done at the top of the world, they wanted to do Cherry, and they wanted to do it with Tom Holland himself. So this was one of my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year, just because I'm curious, what are the Russo Brothers going to do next? And what is, I'm excited to see more of Tom Holland outside of the MCU. Of course, he's in 1,000 movies this year, so there'll be plenty of that happening. But so we got a clip and we got a trailer. I haven't watched the clip. I know you did not like the clip. There it is, that direction. I keep forgetting which way I need to point at you. You did not like the clip that they put out. You called it, what did you say?
I said it reminded me of a student film, and I still stand by that. That was an awful first look to put out for your movie. I was baffled that was the first like piece of visual media we saw from them. I mean, it just, and really the trailer didn't do much else to win me over. It was a very, it was like, okay, we're trying to be a little try hard here, trying to be edgy, trying to prove that, oh, we're more than just the MCU guys. Instead of just like making a really good movie. I don't know, man. I was on board with this thing. I was really excited for it. I was like, yes, Tom Holland's got a real shot at an Oscar here. And then all of the first look stuff comes out, and I'm just like, this sucks. This is really, really bad. And yeah. So if you haven't seen any sort of material from Cherry, don't make it that first clip because it's really, really strange. Watch the trailer, but even still, I'm not on board.
Yeah, so I didn't watch the clip because I'd heard that and I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't use that as my point of reference going into this if it's giving people a bad vibe. So I watched the trailer and I didn't have your kind of negative reaction to it, but it feels like we've seen this movie.
Yeah,
it feels like kind of like the basic plot of it is soldier with PTSD starts going self-destructive course while falling in love. That feels like a lot of things that. It doesn't strike me as like, oh man, what an original new thing to do. It's like, okay, I'm not latching on to the thing that pops about this. That's new and different.
and they're telling it in the same way as like Goodfellas, and I'm like, okay, every other movie that is tackling this same exact thing is taking the Goodfellas formula since Goodfellas came out to tell that movie. Why would you do something that is just so trite and uninspired for your big breakaway from the MCU? That to me is where I go, okay, you guys are trying to just be too edgy with it or try hard or something. That's yeah.
So yeah, if I was basing my excitement on the movie with no knowledge that the Russos were making it, just saw that trailer, it would be like, okay, another one of these. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that kind of catches the attention for me is the director and the star of the film,
right?
And that's unfortunate. You normally want something that's a little bit catches you a little bit more, unfortunately, but. Fortunately, we've got more Tom Holland movies this year, so we'll get to see him show up in Uncharted later this year. But
right. Well, and if we're to believe the rumors, he might be playing young Willy Wonka.
Right. That's what the funny thing about it. So he's done like only Spider-Man for 5 years. And then he shows up in a Netflix movie, and he's in Cherry, he's in Uncharted, he's going to be another Spider-Man movie. They want him to be Willy Wonka. Like, man, now this guy's in everything, and people are getting mad about it. But
everyone wants to cast Tom Holland.
Yeah. Interesting the way the universe plays out. I'm trying to look in the chat to see if there's any strong feedback in the chat on the movie. One person just saying, agree 100% with Griffin. Okay, well, that's simple enough. That works.
Yeah, for sure.
Someone say you can tell that he lost some weight. Yeah. Going from playing a superhero to playing a guy on heroin, probably got to drop some weight.
Yeah. Like here's the actual reactions did come out for the film, I think like last week or something like that, and there was just some like really interesting feedback for it, mostly negative, but the one consistent thing was everyone praising Tom Holland's performance. So if nothing else, at least we have a really solid Tom Holland performance to look forward to. So I'm sure his career will be just fine after this. The Russos, I'm a little concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of that's what made it interesting to me, is that they have a decade of dominating one franchise and rising up to the top of the world. But if you look at their filmography from before MCU, before they did Community, Dupree, Welcome to Collinwood, these are not movies that people remember. These are not like, it's like, oh yeah, that came out, didn't it? And so then I was curious of like, did they get really, really good after those movies while working on Community and going into the MCU? Or were they just really good at doing the show Community and really good at working with Kevin Feige?
Yeah, I mean, that's starting to look that way. Because if you look at the movies that they've produced, the only good one is Extraction. And that's because Sam Hargrave directed it.
And he's directing the sequel. He's signed on. He's confirmed that. If you guys don't know, Griffin, through his connections, we were able to interview him last year, and he couldn't confirm if he was doing it or not, but he said he wanted to, and he's now confirmed he is going to direct Extraction 2. So, woo! Yeah. That's just a little side note in here, not even an official thing that we're talking about today, but we were big fans of that movie. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's like my soulmate. I found out yesterday his birthday's even like 2 days before mine. I think he's a year younger than me, but it's like his birthday's right around mine, so we're like the same age, same month of birth, and we grew up watching the same movies, being inspired by the same things. He went off to be a stuntman. Like that's what I literally growing up thought, like, I would be so fun to be a stuntman. I wish it's like he did all the stuff I wished that I would have done. Like he has ended up living the life that it's like the alternative version of mine. So anyway, even as we were discussing, he was referencing all these small movies. I was like, yes. Except he actually followed through on that dream. And I guess in this other way, I get to talk about movies without breaking bones and stuff. So that's pretty cool too. Yeah. So continuing on, next thing I wanted to talk about is that last week, HBO Max put out a little mini trailer for basically promoting the fact that they're going to have a bunch of movies that premiere in theaters and on HBO Max the same day. And as part of that, we got glimpses of Godzilla vs King Kong, Mortal Kombat, Space Jam 2. And so not trailers whatsoever, but we got glimpses, little snaps of footage. Basically, in my mind, they're kind of the equivalent of when you get the Entertainment Weekly first look at something and you get like 5 pictures from it. This is the motion version of that. So let's just kind of walk through which ones, some of these that dropped. First one, Godzilla vs Kong. We got actually another big piece of information about this list last week. They moved it up 2 months. So this movie comes out in 2 months from now. Like, this is a movie that is right around the corner, and we don't have a trailer yet. So I love monster movies. I actually like this franchise. I don't think they're quite as good as they could be, but I'm not a hater whatsoever. Even Godzilla, people trash that one for not having enough. I don't have really significant issues with it, and all of them, they get kind of dumb fun for me. And my wife loves these movies, and she's a huge fan of Kyle Chandler, and so him showing up in King of the Monsters, her head explodes. It's her favorite movie that year, so she is super duper 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 pumped for this movie to come out. As from the director of You're Next, a movie that I rave about all the time. I even talked about it in my video, favorite movies of each letter of the alphabet. So I'm super excited for this one. I mean, I'm expecting a dumb Taco Bell movie, but of course sure. I am. What else would it be? But we don't have a trailer yet, and it comes out in 2 months. And that's just interesting. Like, I literally almost every day, I kind of wake up and check Twitter just to see if the trailer's dropped. That's literally what I do. I'm checking just to see if the trailer's dropped.
Yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see if they drop a trailer before the Super Bowl, because I think they have a really good opportunity here to make the entire Super Bowl Godzilla versus King Kong centric. Just like drop a bunch of little spots, drop a trailer, make some do some cool marketing affiliations with the whoever's putting it on. I don't know if it's Fox, CBS, or whoever. Just because it's a gladiator match of a movie. So play into that gladiator match of football that we all know, and nothing else is really big, nothing else is really coming out, and so they have just this perfect opportunity, real person marketing there. Say Godzilla vs Kong is going to be on HBO Max on this day. You do not want to miss it. It's like a pay-per-view event. Get creative with it. I think that's when we're going to start to see the marketing really, really ramp up.
Well, I think this is where HBO, Warner Brothers have such an advantage over everyone else that's still kind of trying to read the situation. And so is anyone else going to want to put a trailer out for their March movie, their April movie? If MCU's not sure what their plan is yet, if they definitely are going to stick to the theater, are they going to put a trailer out? Who knows? But HBO Max, they are all in on this strategy. And so what else? I mean, they also have Mortal Kombat, and who is into a Mortal Kombat movie? People don't even know a Mortal Kombat movie's coming out.
Yeah.
All the 40-year-old bros, people my age that watch the Super Bowl, we're the Mortal Kombat age. I remember when it came out, and it was Street Fighter 2 versus the original Mortal Kombat. It was two awesome side scrollers, but one of them you get to rip people's heads off. And we all had that friend that had the Sega Genesis, because I had the Super Nintendo, and therefore it was the edited version that didn't have any blood, but my buddy down the street had a Sega Genesis where you could still rip heads off. And so that's the generation that's most tuned in throwing Super Bowl parties. So that HBO Max, you got Godzilla vs Kong, and it's the Titans are fighting, and then in Mortal Kombat, we're fighting for people's souls, and it's a brutal raid. They can just destroy that weekend, and it's everyone's talking about the Super Bowl, and everyone's talking about HBO Max. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Grant, we know that they're going to come to play, right? They're going to a lot of speak their release for the year, but I think doubling down on those two films especially would be really, really smart, just given their whole marketing strategy. And then obviously if you've got kids watching too, which sometimes the kids are there, maybe throwing a Tom and Jerry one as well, also because it's two cartoon characters going at it with each other. So
they've got a lot of battles in there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for HBO Max to sort of do this whole thing. The one thing, but going back to not necessarily the Godzilla versus Kong thing, but the show reel that they showed all together was Dune is still on there. Dune is still on there, and they're still saying in theaters, on HBO Max, all this stuff. So it's they haven't quite worked out what's going to happen with Dune just yet. And that's really interesting to me because I thought for sure they would have like the next set of like HBO Max marketing, they would have taken that away and been like, no, this is going to go to theaters, but it's there.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to, pretty clearly, as we've discussed, Warner Brothers and HBO Max just rolled this one out without having a lot of conversations with people, so it wouldn't leak, I guess, early. And it seems like they stepped on a lot of toes, but they're going forward with it. They're pressing on like, and I don't know if they could, there's any way they couldn't do that at this point in time because they've so promoted the fact that they're going to do this. They're making that their strategy. They're making it known like all these blockbusters, sign up HBO Max, make it happen. Theaters, HBO Max for 30 days. That is the whole promotion. And so it's fun that they're all in on it. And as someone that reviews movies for a living, knowing that I can be confident that we're actually going to get this movie in 2 months, and we're going to get Mortal Kombat in 2 months, and 4 or 5 months, we're going to get Space Jam.
Oh, shit, Space Jam. Yeah, that was the other one.
Whoa. My mom listens to this, and she'll be offended by your harsh, coarse language.
I'm so sorry, and how dare I say that in the same breath as Space Jam?
Yeah, right, children, Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. Why was I talking about Tom and Jerry? Space Jam. Drop the trailer for Space Jam. It's a sports movie, like.
Right. We can keep going down the list of like, it's like we're predicting what's going to happen in 2 weeks or whenever the Super Bowl happens. Like, it seems like that's what they're doing. They're holding off, and they're like teasing the pictures, this quick little shots of it. But I mean, that's 6 weeks out from Godzilla vs Kong. 6 weeks out. Like they can't wait any longer than that.
I'm sorry. I'm just still racking my brain around the fact that the first time that we're going to see Godzilla versus King Kong is going to be on a 4K television and not on a massive screen with a projector and just like opening night. Like, dude, you got to like when they started this whole monster universe thing, this was the
whole point. Biggest screen ever for the two biggest titans. Now watching, or think about the high schoolers that they watch it on their laptop or their phone.
Dude.
Like how many people, if you're watching this right now, how many people watch your streaming services on your phone in bed, and that's where you're going to be watching Godzilla vs Kong.
Yeah, it's going to be like people falling asleep to The Office every night. Nah, hey, let's put on Godzilla vs Kong before we go to bed, just casually. Like, that's upsetting. And you know that the guy, who's the guy who's directing it? Michael Wingard, Adam Wingard, right? He's doing
for Godzilla. Godzilla. Your next guy, yeah.
Yeah, you got to know he's just so upset about it.
Yeah, that's be interesting to see how it plays out. So Space Jam, we didn't talk about that one. We paused on that one real quick. So I didn't grow up on Space Jam. I was in high school when it came out, or in 8th grade. I don't remember if it was 95 or 96. So for me, I wasn't going to go see a Bugs Bunny movie. I was just too old. And I've seen it. Of course, it's fun. But I'm literally 2 years too old to be the perfect age for it. So I don't really have nostalgia for it. I didn't grow up watching it. And I don't even remember when I first watched it, but it was kind of later on in life. So did you grow up on that one?
I didn't grow up on it, but it like obviously was around as a kid. Like everyone had like Space Jam, like apparel and whatnot. I will say that I don't think it's as good of a movie as people like to think it is. The better version of it is Looney Tunes Back in Action with Brendan Fraser, which does not get enough credit whatsoever. That's a really, really good movie. And it plays on the whole Roger Rabbit thing like better than Space Jam. But if you just want that like quick nostalgia fix, like, yeah, you can go watch the Looney Tunes play basketball with Michael Jordan. Like that's literally all it's
novelty.
Exactly.
And Bill Murray's a side character, and Larry Bird shows up for 30 seconds, and like it's a movie so designed for novelty appeal. But this isn't great cinema. It's just a wacky concept.
Yeah,
it's like a perfectly wacky concept. So,
well, yeah, and I think with the second one, like, I mean, I know there were some people talking about, oh, is that a 3D Bugs? They're not doing the 2D animation. I'm like, I expected them to go that route, but also I don't think there's enough clarity there for us to be able to discern that. But I think with Space Jam 2, dude, I just want them to go weird, really play into the just like Warner Brothers archive of IP. Like, you know, there were like the leaks coming out that's like, oh, Pennywise is going to be in there, and like a bunch of other just like random, you know, Warner Brothers characters from the ages. That's probably the smart move to go smart route to go down. Not basketball, because we've already seen that. So you got to up the ante. It's like, what are you going to do different that's going to make this worth people's time?
Yeah, I think it's the sort of movie that just needs to know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, don't buy into the hype of people like, oh, it's a great classic. No. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. So if you lean into the gimmick, if you understand LeBron James is not an actor, so lean into the personality and all of the stardom, and it's all schlock value. It's all, just lean into that.
Yeah,
that's I just think if it takes itself seriously or anything like that, you've already lost. Like,
yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. Here's the other upside this movie has. Michael Jordan was not an actor. LeBron James was actually one of the best parts of, was it Trainwrecked? Was that the movie he was in? I know John Cena was in it, but I think LeBron James was.
I actually haven't seen it.
He did some comedy movie, and I was like really impressed with like his ability as an actor. I mean, it wasn't like mind blowing, but I was like, oh, okay, this dude, you know, if he wanted to do a couple movies here and there after he's done playing basketball, he definitely has a future in it. Yeah. So there you go. Your lead's already a better actor than Michael Jordan. So I don't know, just kind of roll with it.
So we got one more trailer we absolutely have to talk about. Someone in the comments has also been bringing it up repeatedly. Trailer for Willy's Wonderland.
Yes.
I didn't know what this was. Some people started messaging me, Sean, you have to watch the Willy's Wonderland trailer. You have to watch the Willy's Wonderland trailer. I was like, what are you talking about? And then I saw a picture of Nicolas Cage, and I thought, I need to watch the Willy's Wonderland trailer. And I watched it, and it was just as weird, bizarre, and Nicolas Cagey as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Where I guess he gets a flat tire, so he takes a part-time job cleaning up Willy's Wonderland, only to discover that the creatures come alive.
Yeah.
But he's not locked in there with them. They're locked in there with him. And you get no shortage of insane Nicolas Cage stuff. Even, like, it plays it most likely like straight-faced, he's not talking, but it cuts just a couple times to him doing weird Nicolas Cage stuff, and it looks like we're going to get our first classic, weird Nicolas Cage over-the-top performance. I'm pumped for it. My wife was freaked out by it. Oh, actually, pausing on this note, I just got a text from my wife. I guess she's watching this. She said she will go see Godzilla in the theaters. She will risk her health to see Godzilla vs. Kong in the theaters, which, given that every time I've been to the movies in the last 6 months, there have been 5 people in the theater, it is much safer than most of the other things that I've done, like taking my kids to school. So
going to the grocery store.
Going to the grocery store. So, but back to Willy's Wonderland.
Right.
Wasn't on my radar at all. Seems like a perfectly weird Nicolas Cage movie. My type of weird Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah. The only reason I know about this is because of 3C Films. Dude's been covering this thing for like years. Because like, wasn't it supposed to be like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie or something like that? And then it sort of got like warped into something else. Or...
I'd heard something like that, but I don't know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's, so the point of reference doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
And so then I thought that there was a connection, but I didn't want to say anything too ignorant, because I am wholly ignorant of the subject matter. But yeah, I think 3C is also my point of reference to be like have any awareness at all that this thing exists.
Yeah, right, for sure. Excuse me. So. Yeah, just based off of the trailer, I mean, like, yeah, it's wacky, it's weird. I mean, it's like Nicolas Cage killing a bunch of like killer Robotronics stuffed animal things. Like, it's basically taking like the Five Nights at Freddy's sort of like plot of like a fun house that tries to kill you, and like putting a spin on it, and then with Nicolas Cage, I guess, trying to like kill them and everything like that. I like the fact that he doesn't say anything in the trailer. Yeah. Like, I don't think he has a single line of dialogue. It's just screaming. And that's really funny. But I have to say, I was expecting it to be a little bit more like, I don't know, like crazy, like violent. Like it was crazy and it was violent, but I was expecting more, I guess. And I don't know, maybe that's on me. I'm sure it'll be entertaining to watch. Again, my expectations are very, very low for it. But I'm glad that people are excited for it. It looks like it could be fun. So,
yeah. Well, we shall see how this. Every year you get a couple weird Nicolas Cage movies, and he had about 4 or 5 years there where they were like just forgettable, lowbrow, like direct-to-video thrillers and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then he's the last few years started to kind of. They're still direct-to-video things, but they're a lot more interesting. Like Mandy, it's like has a very rabid audience and very distinct directorial style, and you have him doing LSD and then battling a demon with a chainsaw. And then last year he did the Color Out of Space, that is from the director who hasn't directed anything since The Island of Dr. Moreau. And it's this trippy, weird body horror. And so he's getting better projects. So it's been kind of fun.
He's going like really headfirst into like horror and genre and like weird, just like I don't want to say B movies. They're almost like, and I don't want to say like grindhouse movies, but they're like that really like direct to video type horror film, and like he's doing really well in them. And he's got one coming that's like premiering at Sundance this year. It's like Prisoners of Ghostland or something like that, and it's like some like weird action movie, and I'm like I'll take this. I'll take this over like, the USS Indianapolis any day of the week. So.
Seeking vengeance.
Yeah.
So like the big film festival here in town that I've been to several times is Fantastic Fest, and it's like a genre film festival, a lot of kind of horror movies.
Yeah.
These movies are designed for Fantastic Fest.
Yeah.
And Color Out of Space premiered there, and it was it played there, and that's where I saw it. Was actually in a theater 6 months before it came out, and I think he's finding a nice little spot to have his own revival of his career without it necessarily being in blockbusters. Not necessarily doing what he's doing before, but finding something new that fits his very weird, distinct brand that is him. Even his new show on hosting the swear words show on Netflix. Yeah. It just seems like who would host that would make sense? Nicolas Cage. There you go.
Exactly.
Such a weirdly perfect partnering.
Yeah, I'm glad that I don't know. He's had a really interesting career. I mean, he was like doing prestige dramas back in the 90s and 80s and stuff like that, and now it's just like the trajectory of it is really interesting. But I mean, the one thing that is sort of consistent is that he is legitimately a good actor, and I think people forget that sometimes.
Right, and that's like he's always had a career that's kind of all over the place, because if you follow, he's like in all kinds of comedies in the 80s, but then he also had dramas in there, and then it was Leaving Las Vegas. Yeah, he does this one, and he wins an Oscar, and he follows it up with his 90s action trilogy. Like, he wins the Oscar. Most people at that point in time, they're like, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to try and get my second Oscar. I'm going to try and show the world how good I am. And what he does is he goes, you know what? I'm going to do 3 awesome 90s action movies. And to this day, all 3 of them, people talk about, like, they're fully remembered as standouts of the action genre, and in different ways. The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off are remembered in very different ways, and that was his follow-up to winning an Oscar. Yeah, and so it's just like, of all the directions he could take his career, like it's very like such a strange career that he's had, and so now the current generation that for the last 10 years, it's kind of, he hasn't been as in the mainstream. They know him for the memes and National Treasure, and so they know the over the top stuff, but they forget 25 years ago he won Best Actor, and he was like a leading star of action movies. Yeah, and I mean, it's just such an odd career.
Well, that action, his work in the action films, I have to imagine, led to like the National Treasure movies, which is really interesting because of like, out of all of his films, the National Treasure ones are like that. He is so tame in those movies.
Yeah.
Like you almost forget that he's like Nicolas Cage, who has just gone like that, like, you know, insane. Because he just feels like a kind of normal guy. I mean, there is like a few scenes here or there where he goes over the top, but it's like really funny. But yeah, the other question I have for you: when did Gone in 60 Seconds come out? Was that early 2000s?
2000.
Okay, all right. Because that was the other one that I remember growing up watching, and I was like, oh, that, you know, it wasn't like on the same level as like Face Off or The Rock or stuff like that, but that was like a really solid like car movie.
And that was Angelina Jolie's transition to the A-list.
Yeah,
she did some stuff and got some indie fame, and she got some prestige fame for some of the smaller movies that she did, Girl Interrupted and stuff like that. And then she did Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage, who's on top of the world. And it's like, wait, oh yeah, John Voight's daughter. Yeah, she's really pretty and she can really act. She's a lot of fun. And then that's followed up by Lara Croft, and the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, yeah, but Nicolas Cage, that guy is a legend.
He really is.
In multiple categories and in multiple ways, a legend.
Yeah.
And apparently a very weird guy, too, if you've ever seen pictures of him on the street.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Oh, and we haven't even talked about it. He was supposed to play Superman in the late 90s. He was like so much production on a Tim Burton Superman movie starring Nicolas Cage, a whole documentary done by John Schnepp that actually crowdfunded. That's the one Kickstarter I've actually thrown money to, is the documentary about that. The
Great
Superman
documentary.
Lives. Yeah, really good. And I guess if you watch the credits, you see my name in there. But that's Nicolas Cage. So, all right, gotta move on to our final subject of the day, and then we'll take some Q&A. So, we're getting close to the time where we start asking the question, what was the best picture of 2020? Who were the best actor, best actresses? And I am totally out of the loop on that one for the year 2020. Because press screenings were gone, because everything was kind of the way the year played out. I don't even have any clue whatsoever what movies are even being considered, what performances are being considered. That's not my strong suit in any year. I'm just not that guy. So, Griffin, I need you to help me know what movies I need to be on the lookout for, what things I missed to kind of play a little bit of catch up. So just in general, in theory, what's the chatter about for best picture nominations, and I guess kind of best actor, best actress, some of those ones that people are talking about?
Right, for sure. So, best actor is pretty easy because I think it's a 2-horse race right now, and it's not gonna really change much throughout the course of the season. I think you've got Chadwick Boseman in Rainey's Black Bottom, who is clearly the front runner for obviously a posthumous Oscar win, but also it's just another case where his performance is legitimately that good. And the movie itself, I wasn't as crazy about because it suffers from the same issues that I think a lot of stage to screen adaptations suffer from, which is that they feel too much like a stage play and not enough like a movie. But that being said, the performances in it are great, and specifically Chadwick Boseman giving us this incredible final performance, I think is going to be one to look out for best actor. It's going to be really, really, really hard, if not impossible, to top that. That being said, the person who I think actually does give the better performance, and who I think might give him a run for his money, is Anthony Hopkins for this film called The Father, which is a movie where he is basically suffering from dementia, going into Alzheimer's, and it's done through the lens of Hopkins' character, and so it's like really disorienting. He'll walk into a room and there'll be two people there who are supposed to be like his daughter and like his caretaker, but they've changed from who like his daughter and caretaker are. And so it's like, it's kind of framed like a horror story where it's like every room he's popping into is different from what's happened before. And you really get into, the mind of someone who's their mental state is deteriorating. And I'll go out there and say this. I think it might be Anthony Hopkins' best performance to date, which is saying something because he won the Oscar for Silence of the Lambs. So.
And he's Anthony Hopkins. And so pretty much everything he does is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the two big ones to look out for best actor. I think best supporting, obviously, the Trial of the Chicago 7 has got it's a great ensemble film where everyone is giving excellent performances and like going off of one another. The big one for that, I think, is Sacha Baron Cohen is the one that everyone seems to be pushing for that. And, rightfully so, he gives a really good performance for that. But the one that I think is going to end up emerging as the front runner here is Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah. His portrayal of Fred Hampton has been getting stellar reviews across the board. I mean, that's basically as much as a lock as I think as what we're hearing right now. So Judas and the Black Messiah, I think, comes out in early February, and it's gonna really hit the Oscar race hard. I think not only for best supporting actor, but best picture as well. So keep that one on your radar. Promising Young Woman, which is now available on VOD, I think is going to be a big contender for best actress for Carey Mulligan. Film is divisive, and I'd be curious to see what you think about it or some other people think about it. I really loved it, but I think what is unanimous is that Carey Mulligan is 100% in the awards conversation for that film. I'll be curious if she ends up taking the win, because I think Best Actress is still sort of up in the air a little bit. Because we have Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, which is now available on Netflix. So if you're looking for a Netflix film that's an awards contender, maybe check that one out.
Gotten a hard no from the wife on that one. She loves Vanessa Kirby after the Mission Impossible, then Hobbs and Shaw. She's like, she's the best. And then this is her follow-up to that. She's like, no way. Not watching that.
Yeah, it's a really tough movie to watch. It's like, I mean, did you ever watch Manchester by the Sea?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's sort of along those same lines where it's just like really rough life. But Vanessa Kirby gives her best performance ever, so she's excellent in that. Five Bloods, which came out earlier this year, I think has a real shot at best picture. Spike Lee for director, some screenplay nominations. Delroy Lindo probably getting a best actor nomination, stuff like that. The big one, I think people a lot of people are going to rally behind, maybe for a best picture win, would be Nomadland with Frances McDormand, which comes out on Hulu, I think in February. I don't remember the date exactly, but that one is basically about Frances McDormand's character living like this nomadic lifestyle and seeing the country and like seeing a group of people that are often ignored and whatnot. And I think it's just a really intimate and beautifully shot film that people, it's really resonating with people. So there's that. Regina King's One Night in Miami, which just came out, which is also based off of a stage play, but of the same name. It's more like a movie. Is that dramatic flair to it? Regina King, I think we're looking at maybe a Best Director nomination. Chloe Zhao, who did Nomadland, which I just mentioned, I think we're looking at a Best Director nomination. And I wouldn't be surprised if Soul snuck in there. Snuck in there for Best Picture. I could see that happening.
I've seen Soul. I've seen that one.
Well, so we could talk about Soul.
And I've seen The Five Bloods.
Yeah, there you go. So out of the films you have seen, Sean, what do you think? What do you think's got the best shot at maybe taking home the crown here?
So it's, I think, Soul and The Five Bloods. So between those two, I would imagine The Five Bloods would have the better shot of it because animation has its own category, and so there'd be a bias against giving it the win there. Yeah, but that's a logical calculation. I don't know otherwise, but since I'm so far out of the loop on some of these ones, that's why I wanted you to kind of give me the rundown so I can actually make some lists of the things to try and check out, play a little bit of catch up, and
did you see? I was gonna say, did you see Mank, the Fincher?
I did. Yeah, film? I saw Mank.
Okay, that would be technical, not like for like things, cinematography, maybe Fincher for directing, and all that stuff. But I don't. Well, and Amanda Seyfried for Best Actress, but I can't see it like crossing over and hitting like a Best Picture or something like that. But and sorry, last one, I promise. Malcolm and Marie, which is coming out beginning of February with Zendaya and John David Washington, directed by Sam Levinson, who did Euphoria. That one has been getting rave reviews, and Zendaya is actually emerging as a front runner for Best Actress. She may actually win. So that's another one to keep your eye on for.
And I think they moved back the eligibility date, right?
Yeah. So it's like the end of February.
That's the important. So you said this movie comes out in 2 weeks. We're obviously in the year 2021. The reason that is because they moved back the eligibility because, well, 2020 was 2020 and made things complicated. So, okay, we had a question come in that I thought was a good topic to tackle. Question is asked, your thoughts on Chris Evans returning as Captain America? Well, basically last week, a report came out that was a credible report that Chris Evans is in talks to return to the MCU in some capacity. So what's my initial take on that? If they are negotiating with him to have Chris Evans be in Doctor Strange 2 and some alternate reality, there's some fun potential there. If he shows up as Human Torch, that's brilliant. That's a ton of fun. If they do some wacky other alternate version using Chris Evans, I can be on board with that because it's the setup of multiverse creates a scenario where it makes sense to do something wacky, bring him back for something like that. If they're bringing him back to have old man Steve sit down with Bucky and have a chat with him and mentor him for a nice fun little scene, the way Peggy showed up in, what was it, Winter Soldier for just a little bit, that's cool. That's fun. That's a nice little touch. If they're trying to bring him back to do a new story with him returning the stones, I just think that's a terrible idea. There's an interesting story there. I totally understand. There's an interesting story about Steve returning the stones, but it's looking backwards instead of forwards. And it communicates they aren't confident in their future. They have all these other characters, all these other stories that are also interesting. And instead of looking forward, they're going, man, I don't know if people are going to buy tickets for this. I don't know if they're going to watch this. We better bring Chris Evans back to tell a story about him returning stones that, while interesting, is inconsequential. Interesting, but inconsequential. So if it's for what if it's a little scene of him as old man Steve, if it's him in a multiverse as Human Torch, I think that's fun. If this is to do a miniseries with him, if this is to do Captain America 4, I am absolutely a no.
Yeah, I mean, like, you wrapped up his character arc so perfectly. I mean, arguably, like, Iron Man's was really well done, and that one was a really emotional gut punch for sure. But if you had to ask me, like, which character out of the entire MCU had the best send off, it'd be Steve Rogers. You can't beat that ending shot of him and Peggy just getting that slow dance together. I mean, I'm getting chills just talking about it because it's one of the greatest moments out of the entire cinematic universe. And so if you're going to undo that to bring him back.
As a point of reference to my wife, who I use as the common man or the every person when it comes to the MCU, her big issue with the original Captain America is she was so mad that they never got that dance. Like, she was like, oh man, I like this movie. I really love their relationship, but he never was able to dance with her. And so I saw Endgame before her because the press screening. And so we went, opening night, packed crowd. And I'm just sitting there like watching her like this as it goes to that final little sequence and just watching to see. And she's like, yeah, they did it. They got that dance. It was such a good send off. It closed it out. Yeah. It made sense. Totally on board with what they did. And the idea that they're like, all right, but what if we told another story?
No. And like even old man Steve, I don't know how much I would really want to see of him. Just because I don't know, like, it just his arc ended. Like, I don't know. I saw something that was like maybe he comes back in Black Panther 2 because they're gonna try and bring back all the Avengers in Black Panther 2 for like some sort of send off for, I don't know, T'Challa or whatever. I saw like a tweet about that and I was like, okay, fine, maybe I can get behind that because that's a really emotional moment and it's like more than just the cinematic universe. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to see like him returning the stones. I don't even think that's like something that's even within the realm of possibility. Like that just seems like such a shallow idea. for the MCU going forward, and ultimately, who cares? Like, who cares? So
it's a fun short. Like
like
everyone goes, oh man, what is it like when he returns the stone to Red Skull? That feels like a mystery. That the intrigue of the mystery is a lot more interesting than the actual scene itself. Because what are they going to do? Like Red Skull have a philosophical debate about what Red Skull has learned now that he's become an immortal in a celestial realm? Like what are they actually going to talk about that feels like a satisfying conversation for Steve Rogers?
Yeah.
Like, do they think he's going to like start throwing the shield at him or like, no. So the intrigue of like, oh, he's going to have to return it to Red Skull. That's a fun observation.
Yeah.
I don't know that the scene itself would actually be fun.
No, I don't think that would be interesting at all. I mean, like him returning the stones, whatever. He's Captain America. He can sleuth around and he'll put them back and everything will be fine. Like, it doesn't matter. There are some things that you don't need to see on screen. You can just leave it up to your imagination. And I think with Steve, it just, like, what more is there to do with this character? If you're going to bring him back, there has to be it. And I can't tell you like a single reason why he should come back. Like mentoring Falcon and Winter Soldier, like it's not necessary. They've moved past the need for him to be a mentor.
Right.
With him giving the shield to Sam and being like, this is your thing now. You take over. You're in the position where it's your time. Be Captain America.
And the whole concept is that up to this point they've been in his shadow. The whole point is they're moving on. So like I wouldn't, if there was like a scene, like and I mean like a scene. I don't mean like there's a whole subplot about how they're being trained by Steve. That's a terrible idea. He's in the universe still, so the concept that there could be a conversation. Fair enough. Maybe I'm open to it. I don't hate that. I'm not for it either. I'm not promoting it. Yeah. The Human Torch one is the one that I think is the one that's like, that would be a lot of fun.
Like the multiverse or like multiverse 3 or
They're doing a multiverse, and so then he's playing Human Torch that he played 15 years ago. That's fun.
That is fun. Yeah.
And it's not super clever, but it's a little clever, and it's a nice little touch for the fans.
Yeah.
But him returning as Captain America, I think is a big, don't do that.
Well, here's the other thing is like, what if they do it? But there's like some sort of story that's set like in the past or something like that. Like after he's come out of the ice and after something like that, and it requires him to be there. I don't know. Do you think that I to me, I'm like just right around it. He doesn't need to be there. But I don't know. Maybe it would be necessary for him depending on the story. So
yeah, I mean, like if there's something that that they've introduced time travel, they're telling a story. Black Widow's a prequel, so there's some stuff that could happen. Okay, if he does that, but what I just don't want is we can't let go of Captain America. That's what I think we can't let it go of Tony Stark. And it's where people are immediately like, oh, because Doolittle didn't do well, do you think he's going to return and play Iron Man again? Well, I sure hope not. That's not a good reason to bring the character back. Doolittle doing poorly has nothing to do with whether his character should continue. And if 5 years from now they play out a couple stories and there's an interesting way to do some sort of event return, 5 years from now, sure, maybe that's interesting. But right now, like we're 2 episodes into Phase 4 and it drops, hey, Chris Evans is coming back. It feels like they just don't have confidence when you hear it like that. It just feels like we don't trust.
Exactly.
Like it just feels like that. And so I almost feel like they should have said like, hey guys, this is like a cameo. He's not. I almost feel like
they should have been open about. Well, I mean, and to be fair, Chris Evans did tweet out and he was like, I know nothing about this.
Yeah.
And now, granted, of course he's going to
say that. Yeah.
But I actually genuinely think that he was being serious. And he's like, this is news to me. I don't know what you're talking about. So who knows? But
I think there's always a side to it of if the plan for the future feels like something that any one of us could come up with, that's probably not a good plan for the future.
No. I mean, the MCU has thrived on like not being able to predict what's next. Like Kevin Feige really just, knowing the insides and out of this universe and the characters and just being able to tell a story that is way better than any fan fiction,
Yeah. And I've heard a ton of these different theories of ways he could come back. And I don't think Kevin Feige would do that. Doesn't seem like Chris Evans wants to do that. He's game. Like, he's not burning bridges, but there's just no reason to think that Kevin Feige would be looking to the past, not the future.
Yeah,
especially when he's taking as bold of a risk of kicking off with a sitcom.
Yeah,
and then immediately to be like, but also I'm afraid of the future, so let's get Chris Evans back for Captain America 4.
Yeah,
nah, I don't think so. That doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to close out the main section here. Griffin, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can head on over to the Film Speak channel. I've got a lot of WandaVision coverage over there, and I'm working on a video essay on WandaVision as well. So, if you want to keep the MCU talk going, you can head on over there, and we've got a whole bunch of great content. And then if you want to follow me specifically, you can follow me on Twitter at Griff Schiller.
And if you're listening to the audio version of this, once again, be sure to leave a review and know that we stream these live. I announce it in advance so everybody can join in and take part in all of this. And as always, everyone, keep talking movies too much. All right, if you're watching live right now, we can take answer some of your questions for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. And let's have a nice, fun chat. Okay, let's see what questions are in here. Okie dokie. Disney fan. What about Pixar popcorn? What do you think about that? If you don't know what he's talking about, Pixar popcorn, I guess they just announced that they're doing a Pixar shorts series that starts Friday.
Yeah.
So what do I think about it? I don't really think anything about it because I don't know enough about it. I haven't seen an episode. They just announced it. So that feels like it's probably going to be kind of inconsequential. Feels like, they announced 1,000 things back in December. And so if they didn't announce this one, if they didn't feel the need to promote it, I don't think it's going to be all that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a short little thing. Like I don't imagine it being anything substantial, but I mean, I don't know, it could be cute. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't really have an opinion on it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, without having seen it, without them making a big deal out of it, it's tough for me to make a big deal about it. So It feels to me kind of like how they did Marvel Legends, and they announced it like, oh, we're actually going to be doing this Marvel Legends show. And people are like, whoa, there's a surprise Marvel show that they're doing right before WandaVision comes out. And it's not really a TV show. It's like a recap for the characters before WandaVision to catch you up on it. So if you watch it as a new show, you're like, this is the worst thing they've ever done. Well, it's not a show. It's just it's literally just a compilation of the most important moments of their characters throughout the MCU films to let you know what you need to know going into WandaVision. That's what Marvel Legends is. And so if you expected any more than that, then you're disappointed. If you are angry at it and think it's bad, then you're just wrong. Your expectations for it was wrong. It serves its purpose. And so I'm wondering if that's Pixar popcorn's going to be something like that. Of like, it's just a cute little thing. It's neat that it exists, but it doesn't. They're just trying to put things on there that get people clicking, stopping by for something new. But if they didn't promote it, clearly they didn't put a bunch of time into it. Clearly it's not like a gigantic deal if.
No.
But I mean, I don't know, like, see even some of the comments in here, like, Marvel Legends was pretty average. It's just a glorified clip show. No, it is a clip show. Like, it's not a glorified clip show.
That's exactly what it is.
It's just a clip show. Like, clip show is a perfect description of what it is. So I think even like those kind of phrasing for it, I think you're expecting something that it would never was. Like, they did not announce, and at Investor Day, guys, we've got a new show called Marvel Legends. It's a celebration of our biggest heroes, giving you everything that they didn't do that. After investors said, like, hey, we're actually going to have this thing called Marvel Legends come out to kind of tell you about these characters' histories in the MCU. Like, it was not something that they made a big deal out of. And then it's a clip show. It's a clip. It is literally a clip show. And it does that well. It's in 6 minutes, you can hear everything about Wanda, and in 5 minutes, you can hear everything about Vision.
Yeah.
Through clips. It's a clip show. And it serves its purpose in giving you like a little refresher of what you need to know about these characters. That I wish I'd watched it before I watched WandaVision with my wife, because she needed that refresher. And even there's some things, there's even little things to catch some of the Easter eggs in the first 2-3 episodes. If you watch Legends, you'll catch some of the Easter eggs a little bit better. But that's all it is. And it does that perfectly fine, but that's all it is. Okie dokie. Patrick says, do you have hope for DC and their future movies? Of course I do. I guess I don't understand the question, because there's kind of an assumption. If you have to add in, do you have hope, it would imply that there would be a reason that I didn't have hope for them. Which, if you've watched my most anticipated movies of the year, most excited comic book movies, my video talking about DC movies based on their excitement, I mean, I only have large amounts of excitement for DC projects. So, of course, I have hope for their future. You?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The DCU, I think, is doing a lot of really interesting and original things. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm never not hope DCU.
Tom Fracking, do you think Phase 4 is going to be more epic than Phase 3? No, it won't. It will not be more epic than Phase 3. It's not trying to be. That's like, if you evaluate Phase 4 based off Phase 3, I think that you're reading it wrong. You have to read Phase 4 much more like Phase 1 or Phase 2. Those were, like, this is a rebuilding phase. This is a experimental phase. That's what Phase 1 was. Phase 3 was the payoff of Phases 1 and 2. They spent 2 phases. They spent 10 movies setting up this intricate web of plot lines, and then they paid them off in Phase 3. That's not what Phase 4 is, and you shouldn't expect it to be. Did you have any thoughts on that beyond that?
No, I agree with you. And basically, is like, I mean, it was like this big epic culmination of like 20 years of storytelling. So, or not 20 years,
20 movies,
films,
10 years.
10 years, yeah, of storytelling. So like you got to build up to that to get that sort of epic, climactic type of event.
Gotham GCPD, thoughts on the Lord of the Rings series coming to Amazon? Without having a trailer for it, and without the showrunners having a proven track record, it's tough to really know. I mean, it's cool that they're putting $1 billion behind it. That means they're committed to it. But it just feels like this gigantic project that's taking a long time to happen. And just some of the murmurs feel weird. Like where the nudity clauses and stuff like that. When you're hearing stories like nudity in Lord of the Rings, you're like, this isn't Game of Thrones. Like, Game of Thrones is already Game of Thronesing Lord of the Rings. We don't need to Game of Thrones Lord of the Rings. It's already happened. So there's some things about it just kind of feel off based off just the little murmurs that we have about it. But, it just feels so early to jump to any.
Yeah, I mean, like we don't even have like a first look image or anything. Like we have nothing to judge it off of other than like there's going to be a Lord of the Rings series. I'm obviously excited for it because I love the Lord of the Rings and I think it's a great opportunity to explore that world even more. But like, yeah, I mean, if you're asking if I'm excited, but I have like to base my excitement off of other than it's Lord of the Rings. So
yeah. Jackson Miller, have you seen The Room? Yes, I've talked about it on my channel. If you look up Sean Chandler The Room, you will find some stuff about it. Have you seen Liam Neeson's The Marksman? No, I have not. Just been too busy to head out to the theater, but hopefully I can in the next couple of days to check it out. Marshall Boy with Super Chat, thank you so much. What do you guys? Did you guys watch We Can Be Heroes by the great Robert Rodriguez? No. Robert Rodriguez is great. I don't necessarily find him great when he's doing kids movies. When he does kids movies, he leads into the kids side to it. He doesn't make family movies. He makes kids movies.
Yeah.
And so they're films that critics never like them for good reason. I don't think they age very well, but he makes movies that connect with the target audience, and 39-year-old me is not that. My 6-year-old daughter watched the trailer and seemed kind of interested. I played them the trailer, be like, hey, look, it's The Mandalorian. And my kids didn't immediately go, okay, let's watch it. And so I didn't jump to watch it.
Yeah, I didn't really care too much about it either. I mean, yeah, I grew up with the Spy Kids films, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Shark Boy and Lava Girl and all that stuff. I didn't really care for Shark Boy all that much, but like the Spy Kids movies were fun enough. But I feel like it was like this weird fever dream of a film series that sort of came out and like just left. So yeah, whenever he comes out with like family movies, they're never really geared towards like me. So
they're very much lowbrow humor that elementary school age children connect with and adults roll their eyes at. Jack Barlow with the Super Chat. Thanks so much. So glad to see the podcast is back. Welcome, Sean and Griffin. Yeah, so hopefully, I don't think it'll be weekly this year, but I think it'll be every other week. So back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I've been talking with some people, some potential guests, and to see things work. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, how news drops, and when there's a bunch of great news dropping, I'm sure we'll be very active. And when there's movies releasing that spark conversation, so like this week, like I don't really want the podcast to just be talking movie news. That there's other people already doing that. So this week, the big title piece for it was related to WandaVision coming out, the kickoff for Phase 4. That's the interesting conversation to me. And so it looks like this year we're going to have more things releasing. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's fun to be talking movies again. So
yeah. No, I'm very excited about it. Like I said at the beginning, it's nice to get back to some normalcy of some sorts.
Will X-Men be introduced in the MCU in the future? Yes, they've already kind of told us that's going to happen. Disney fan, Kevin Feige or Zack Snyder? Difficult question. There's not really a comparison to be made. One is a director and one is a producer. So, I like a lot of what Zack Snyder has done, and I think some of it sometimes he misses the mark, and sometimes he's been lined up with some projects that didn't pay out. But I really enjoy what he's done. And Kevin Feige is a legendary producer because of what he's done with the MCU. So,
yeah.
But I don't think there's really a pick one or the other because they do different things. So,
yeah, they're two completely different approaches to world building and storytelling. I think Zack Snyder is telling one like.
It's almost really the opposite. It's almost the opposite sort of thing because Zack Snyder is a very narrow, I have this one specific view of the world, and I'm going to tell this story with these characters. And the whole brilliance of Kevin Feige is I'm going to work with 15 directors and have a unified vision for the continuity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I'm going to have a master plan for all these different people's things. Those are opposites.
Yeah.
Daniel asks, has your excitement for Patty's Star Wars movie been lowered because of the quality of Wonder Woman 1984? Well, given that you're a huge fan of it, I doubt that was the case for you. For me, it's tough to know exactly which thing led to the issues that I had with Wonder Woman 1984. I feel she's a stronger director than writer. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
When you look, when you look at individual,
sorry.
yeah, it looks like our stream is off for me, Joe.
Yeah.
If you look at individual scenes of Wonder Woman 1984, clearly they're directed wonderfully. But when people point out the stuff that they have issues with, it's not normally the way she directed a sequence. It's the writing, it's plot holes, it's this was way too weird. What was she thinking? And it's the writing. It feels like is much more so what they take issue with. So, and you also don't have the freedom on certain areas within the world of Star Wars. So I'm not immediately nervous. Certainly, had I been more wowed by Wonder Woman 84, it could have raised my excitement. That she would have a much like her batting average would have gone up. I feel like it's gone down a little bit. But there's other ingredients in the mix to where I'm not immediately just like, oh, well, I didn't love this movie, therefore she sucks.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't think that's a reasonable way to approach things.
Not at all. And I mean, she's proven herself as a more than capable director. And even if you even if you weren't like crazy about Wonder Woman 1984, her ability as a director is still proven there. Like, she is excellent at what she does, and she can do big budget stuff, and she can do small prestige dramas like Monster and stuff like that. So like she's fine. Whether or not, I guess you're on board with like her writing the scripts and stuff, I think that's something different. As someone who liked Wonder Woman 84, I like my faith in her ability to direct a Star Wars movie is unwavered. And I think anyone who's thinking that, oh, maybe she shouldn't direct a Star Wars movie should probably just have a second, like, think about it for a second. I think there are directors who have had far worse blunders who've still got an opportunity to direct a second film.
I mean, think of someone like a Guy Ritchie that, like, he did two awesome movies, and then he did, what was that, was Swept Away with Madonna, and it's an unbelievably bad movie. It's like the characters are the most unlikable characters you can imagine. They're stuck on an island, and he's like literally like slapping her, like literally slapping her, hitting her to get her to behave, and she's totally unlikable. And so that's supposed to make you be like, yeah, it's okay that he's hitting a woman. Like, that's Guy Ritchie's second movie, and then he followed it up with like a really weird philosophical underground crime movie called Revolver that's not good at all. And then he did the Sherlock Holmes movies that people liked again, but then he did some things that weren't so good, and then he did some good things again. Like, this guy's all over the place. But, maybe some of it's just because Patty Jenkins has one big blockbuster that everybody's seen, and then there's a 15-year gap between Monster and that movie, and, a lot of people haven't seen Monster, and they forget she's directed television, things like that. And so then they're just going, okay, she had one movie. Was it a fluke? It must have just been a fluke, because that's the only other one that they've seen. But that's the way people think. Allison Harding, thoughts on Into the Spider-Verse 2? We're just so far out, I don't really have thoughts on it. I'm excited to see it. The first one was great. There's more fun things to explore there. But when you're 2 years out, or however far out we are, don't have any pictures, don't have a plot synopsis, I don't have like specific interesting thoughts to share this early. What are your super interesting thoughts?
On Spider-Verse 2, that I'm excited for it, and I'm glad that Daniel Pemberton is coming back to do the music. That's about it. I got nothing else.
Have you watched the Mission Impossible franchise? Yes. Search
No,
Sean Chandler.
I refuse.
I've never heard of it. What are you talking about? Yeah, search Sean Chandler, Mission Impossible. I've reviewed all of them. I've ranked all of them. I've done all of it. It's a great franchise that, I've seen every single one of them in the theater opening weekend. So I'm very much, very, very, very much familiar with the franchise, and I've covered it extensively on my channel.
Yeah.
Man, Freddie Mercury really wants to know, Get Out or Us? Do you want me to get out or unite to be us? It's a tough question. It's a tough question there. I think that we should unite. We should be us is what we should do.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good idea.
If you're referring to the two movies, I have reviews of both of them. I have much more positive views on one than the other. But I have reviews on that one. Allison Harding, with another question. What's your thoughts on Daredevil returning Spider-Man 3? So this isn't confirmed. So like, I think comicbook.com ran a report. Finally confirmed. Matt Murdock will be in Spider-Man 3. He's been seen on set. That's not what confirmed means. That means someone reported that they saw him on set. That can mean a lot of different things. Is it possible? Sure. It seems like we're hearing a lot of buzz about this. It could have happened, or could happen. If it does happen, I would anticipate it's probably pretty low key. I'm not expecting it to be merging of the show Daredevil with Spider-Man. He'll be a lawyer, or it'll be in the multiverse. Cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not. They would have sold us on it a little bit more, or it would have been clearly he's in the cast if it was anything more than a little cameo, a little sequence here and there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can look at that Collider interview where like Frosty asked him if does that mean that he's coming back, and then Kevin Feige just sort of like paused for a little bit. He didn't really say anything, and what so forth. I mean, you can read too much into a lot of things, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be cool if he came back. I mean, I want to see him back, obviously, because I love Charlie Cox, that character.
Yep.
The question is, does it mean that he's playing the Daredevil that we know, or is it like a new Daredevil kind of thing? I don't know, but I guess we'll see. We'll see sooner or later what's going on with that.
Yeah. So, Charlie Miller, are you excited or dreading Natalie Portman as Thor? If you watch any of my videos where I've talked about that movie, watched any of my videos talking about which movies am I excited for, I am not remotely excited for Lady Thor. Every time I say that, people are like, yeah, but in the comics, if you just kind of look at it and you start kind of like, these just aren't inherently interesting ideas to me when you look at it. And I understand it's more complicated than this, but we're doing Lady Thor, She-Hulk, Ironheart, and you start kind of going to throw all of our original main Avengers in a girl version of them. It's the same idea repeated 5 times or 4 times or whatever it is. Yeah. And that's, to me, where I go, that I don't know if they meant to do that. I don't know if that's just the next character set that they had or whatever, but it's just not inherently interesting to me. Like, well, what if she's got cancer and because she uses Thor's power, the chemo, and okay, there's an idea in that's like, okay, if you're going to do that, there's something mildly clever in that. But do I want Jane to be Thor? No. Thor is interesting because he's the god of thunder, not because he just has powers. And so I just don't think it's it's not at all the direction that I would want to take things.
Yeah.
And because they're doing so many of these that just feel like it's a girl doing the male Avenger, like I just don't. That's not interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm curious to see what they do with her. And I'm excited to see Natalie Portman back because I think that she is a great part of those Thor movies. I really do enjoy her as Jane Foster. And seeing her directed by Taika Waititi, I think it'll be awesome. It'll be really cool. And seeing like the Lady Thor arc from the comics sort of like come to the big screen, I think will be really interesting. But I mean, like, I guess she's got to have her own set of things and her own, character struggles and stuff that makes her a compelling superhero. Right. And we've yet to see that. So I'm sure that they'll include that in Thor: Love and Thunder, and maybe we'll get to see like Lady Thor and like Chris Hemsworth Thor team up and like kick ass together as like a couple. I mean, I don't know, like that'll be interesting to see, but yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like I don't have enough information to really like formulate. Like,
yeah, and I think that even kind of the way you phrase that of like, if there's an interesting story, like I have to have an interesting story to be interested in it. And that to me, like I got a bunch of flack and had a couple things kind of go viral on Twitter a little bit because I wasn't excited about She-Hulk. And I said, like, I haven't read She-Hulk. I'm not super familiar with the character. But when they promote it as She-Hulk and hey, Mark Ruffalo's going to show up and Abomination's going to show up in it, they're not selling me on the interesting plot. They're not selling me on all the things that people on Twitter were like, she's really interesting because of this. She's not just a female version of Hulk. Like,
yeah.
But that's not what they sold it as. Like, they did not sell me on this super interesting story. They said, we're going to do She-Hulk. She's a lawyer, and we're going to have Mark Ruffalo in there, and we're going to have Abomination. Okay, well, I heard the word Hulk in her name, and then you went on to describe the actual Hulk's going to be in it, and one of the Hulk's villains is going to be in it. You tied a bunch of that, like, in several of these, they kind of selling them as using Iron Man as a point of reference, like even more advanced suit than Iron Man. Okay, so your selling point was it's a girl with a more advanced suit than Iron Man. That's not inherently interesting to me. What is the story? So a lot of these ones, I just need to know what the selling point of just telling me it's Lady Hulk or Lady Thor. that doesn't immediately in any way, shape, or form interest me whatsoever. My first thought on that is like, really? Jane turns into Thor? What? Like that? Like my gut reaction to it, because you have to sell me on the story. So that's kind of my gut reaction on almost all of those. We had a few other kind of little Marvel news pieces over the last week. What are your thoughts on Ethan Hawke being cast in Moon Knight? If it plays out and is true, I'm all on board. Sounds good to me. He's talented, and they're going for talent. So cool and interesting actors.
Yeah. I'm it's really funny because I think it was like last year or something like that. He was like, superhero films, they're whatever. And now he's cast, opposite Isaac, in Moon Knight. So yeah, I'm really curious. Listen, Ethan Hawke is an incredible actor. I think he's going to bring a lot of gravitas, like experience and ability to the big screen. And like seeing him and Oscar Isaac get against one another, I think that's where my excitement comes from. I'm like, yes, let this.
We'll kind of fly through a few of these real quick, and then we'll close out in just a few minutes. Thoughts on possibly Matt Damon in Thor 4? Matt Damon was in Thor 3. He's in Ragnarok. So it seems like he's just buddies with these guys, and so they're having fun with that. If they announce it as more, that's interesting that they would take someone that they did a cameo with in Thor 3 and then actually cast him in the fourth one. It seems like that they would make a bigger deal of that the way they made a bigger deal with Christian Bale being cast. Do you have high expectations for Black Widow? I've done a bunch of videos discussing that. What are your thoughts on Indiana Jones 5? We've talked about that 1,000 times here on the podcast. It's tough for me to get excited about it. Harrison Ford is 78 right now. He turns 79 before they start shooting or right when they start shooting. And a deconstruction of Indiana Jones as an old man doesn't sound like a good idea. And the escapism of Indiana Jones is this guy in his prime. And that's just not what this is. Jorge, Wonder Woman 84, Birds of Prey. I have a ranking. I put it out. I have reviews of all of them, so you can check out my full thoughts on all that. Marshall, what do you think about Peaky Blinders? I've only seen the first episode, so I haven't really seen it. Have you seen it?
I saw like the first few, similar to you, the first few episodes, and like it's good. I just kind of fell off the track.
Max, have you watched Walking Dead? I'm a OG. I started watching I got a season pass for it before the first season ever debuted, but I'm also an OG, abandoned the show. I got to the middle of season 3 and I was like, it's the same thing over and over again. And I abandoned ship even kind of before it hit its like height of popularity. I was already kind of getting bored with it. And so I abandoned it before most of you started watching it, actually.
Yeah, I abandoned it, I think, halfway through season 4. Yeah, when the governor died, I think that's when I basically was like, I'm done. Not because I hated what was going on, but I was just like, I'm kind of bored. I'm over this. I see that the future is not going to be good.
And I think part of it is that it's not actually moving towards a conclusion of a story. So it doesn't in a certain sense, it's not a story. It's just a continuing character study of these characters. And so you never feel like you come to any sort of completion. It's just constantly tightening tension.
Yeah.
And he just got kind of bored of that adventure. Hey, Sean and Griffin, what do you think about Ben Affleck comments on Kevin Feige? If you don't know, Ben Affleck said that Kevin Feige is the greatest producer out there because he's the producer that best knows what audiences want. Ben Affleck has an Oscar for screenwriting, and he's directed a Best Picture winner. And he's been in a lot of blockbusters over the last 25 years. He probably knows what he's talking about. Kevin Feige, and I don't know if Kevin Feige produced his Daredevil movie. Kevin Feige produced a bunch of Marvel movies before the MCU. Basically, like, he tried out on all these other people's movies, and then he did the MCU, and he was able to do it his way after learning all the lessons from them. So he might have actually produced Daredevil back in the day. But you can just look at the success of the MCU. Kevin, what he did there is amazing. Like, it's like, who's in competition to be the better producer or more accomplished, more successful at what they're trying to do? And some people say, like, well, maybe Kevin Feige, and from my comments somewhere, I don't remember what the conversation was, someone was like, maybe he's the most successful producer, but that doesn't mean he's the best. If success isn't the measure of best, then what? Like, what?
No,
if,
yeah.
like, I mean, if you're just, I mean, obviously, box office success doesn't mean that doesn't equal best producer, because, you know, whoever's doing the Transformers movies knows how to make money, but they're not making good movies. Kevin Feige is making movies that critics and audiences both love, and making enormous amounts of money. I don't know who you could argue is better than him. Real quick one here. Give us some clue as to episode 3 of WandaVision, please. The only thing that we'd be willing to say is what we've kind of already said and what the show already hints at. It's set in the 70s. It's Brady Bunch-esque. It's a sitcom. If you've seen the last episode, it closes out with a big reveal about WandaVision's state of life. That's the plot of the next episode. That thing that's revealed at the end of episode 2 is the plot of episode 3. And it gives more of a context of what's going on. It acknowledges the weirdness more, and it gives you more answers, but not much. It's another sitcom. It definitely gives you the most of the 3 episodes, but it 100% is a sitcom. And if the other ones gave you this much, episode 3 gives you this much. So it's, it is definitely more, but it's not like, oh, all your questions are answered. It's not that at all. But it does give you more than the previous 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Some of you guys who keep asking questions like, am I excited for Shang-Chi? Please go watch my videos about what movies I'm excited. I've literally made videos in the last 2 weeks titled 2021 comic book movies ranked by my excitement. I put out that video less than 2 weeks ago. So I don't want to answer a question that's like, I literally have already tackled that. Daniel, do you think the quality of Suicide Squad could impact the box office potential of The Suicide Squad? I think absolutely that's a concern. They need to find a way in the marketing to differentiate the films, because there's a lot of people that were burned by that first movie.
Yeah, that's true.
So but good marketing can win you over real quick, but they need to differentiate themselves and have enough of a different tone and make it clear there's James Gunn, and like really use the director of Guardians of the Galaxy. They need to do stuff like that to win people over. All right. I think that'll be good for today. Any final thoughts for us, Griffin?
Final thoughts.
Yeah, something that'll like inspire us and encourage us to change the world, or something.
Go
like
seize
that.
the day, folks. Go take control of your own destiny.
That's good.
That's all I got.
Here's a good one. Why is no one talking about Cherry? Because you're late to the live stream.
Funny you should say that.
We talked about it for about 10 minutes at the beginning. If you look at the description of it, it has the order. That's the order we talked about things. So we talked about it for literally like 10 minutes. We did. So if you're wondering why people in the public aren't talking about it, it's because they only dropped the trailer like a week ago. And it's not a big budget deal. So there's not as much reason for there to be chatter because they haven't done as much to spark chatter on this one. But seize the day, everyone. Do something that matters today.
There you go.
There you go. That was a good
worth of advice.
That was good. Yeah. I'm glad that I ended on that note. And keep talking movies and TV too much. We'll be back sooner than later.